Hello and welcome back to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Today we'll be looking at the Triumph Acclaim. Welcome back to Quartzlight. It is a car brochure channel this, so if you're new, do consider subscribing. It'll help you catch your favourite episodes, but it also helps the channel as well and gives you better content. But today's episode, the Triumph Acclaim, first introduced in 1981, it ran till 1984, based on the Honda Blade. It was kind of like a change, like a big change that helped BL in many ways. First of all, we finally got a reliable, well-built car at last, and it kind of like paved the way for Rovers, this Rover Honda alliance, to build better vehicles. The Triumph Acclaim, it is a car from my childhood as well. My dad bought a brand new one in 1984 that proved to be extremely reliable for the next 10 or so years, however long he owned it for, and it was also the first car I ever drove. So let's have a look at today's brochures for the Honda. Nearly said it wrong there. The Triumph Acclaim. So here we go, the first glimpse of this brochure for the Triumph Acclaim. Immediately tell that this is the top of range CD model. There was four. There was an L, a HL, a HLS, and the CD. Immediately you notice that this is the CD by the little headlamp washers, and also the HLS and above had these little rubbing strips on there as well. So this is the top of the range model. And as we open the page up, it gives us a glimpse of some of the other models as well. This will be, it doesn't mention it here, but this is going to be the HLS. No, this is going to be the HL, I do apologise. No rubbing strips. This will be the HLS with the rubbing strips but without the washers. And this will be the top of the range with the headlamp washers on there as well, and also gives you a glimpse of a few of the colours. My dad's was in this blue, although it wasn't the HLS, it was the HL. Weirdly, this early brochure doesn't even mention the L, and we'll come to that in a moment. Let's have a look at some of this text though, it is quite interesting. Okay, so the new Triumph Acclaim is here to change your views on motoring totally. You need no longer associate economy with lackluster performance and a sparse selection of features and equipment. Acclaim sets new standards. The distinctively styled front-wheel drive four-door saloon is a sparkling performer. Powered by the Transverse Light 1335cc twin carburetor engine, it delivers 70 brake horsepower at 5500 RPM and can outsprint many 1.5 and 1.6 litre cars. The 5-speed gearbox lets you make the most of its lively performance. Or, for a little, you can opt for a delightfully clever clutchless transmission system. Yet, in direct contrast to its lively performance and exciting specification, the new Triumph Acclaim offers outstanding economy and low running costs, thanks to its 5 forward gears, its use of 2-star petrol, and inexpensive servicing and the protection of Super Cover. As for luxury equipment, the Acclaim specification is highly impressive. Even the lowest price model has such standard luxuries as a fitted push-button radio, reclining seats, twin exterior mirrors, rear fog guard lamps, a rev counter, a digital clock. The other two models in the range are even more extensively equipped to rival many expensive executive saloons. I know that equipment level doesn't sound amazing, does it? But if you looked at some of my other episodes, you know, even things like a passenger mirror, a clock, a radio, those sorts of things were only just becoming kind of like standard equipment. As for the rest of this brochure, it's not one of my favourites, I have to admit. Yeah, there's some nice little bits of nice pictures on here, again showing the top of the range model. sort of the interior pictures, bit of a glimpse at the seats, the automatic, or as they call it, a Triumph gearbox, a little bit of an interior look, and of course that superb Honda engine, let's call it a Honda engine, which was very reliable. Then it just quickly looks at the HLS and the more basic HL without those rubbing strips, and a quick glimpse at some of the features. But overall, like I say, I'm not hugely impressed with this one, so I'm just going to have a look at the range brochure, which I think is a better glimpse for a video like this. So this is within the full range brochure for Austin Rover, or British Leyland, but let's call it the Austin Rover Group, for January, February, March 1983. I love how it describes it as Austin Morris MG Rover Triumph. And within those pages is the Triumph Acclaim, and I think this kind of like sums the car up a little bit better than the previous brochure. First of all, it looks at both models, the L and the HL, a little bit of a glimpse between the L's interior and the HL's interior, and on here as well it gives us a look at this very sort of like dated clock and a steering wheel. Now what some people do forget is that in 1983 there was kind of like a refresh. I know the Acclaim was only around for such a short period of time, but even so there was still a little bit of a refresh on the model. So if I look at this Austin Rover brochure, Austin Rover cars, driving is believing, October, November, December 1983, we can see that there is a little bit of a change to the Acclaim. We get that exactly the same picture as we did before, but if you notice, little things like the clock, got an update to this more of a quartz, more digital style clock, and we can also see there's an update of the steering wheel from the old one to the new one, and there's a few little touches like that, and the HL and the HLS ended up with a little bit more equipment. But let's stick with this newer brochure. Like I say, it does give us some of these little details, and it gives an idea of optional extras. So down here for optional extras, it says you can choose from radio, stereo, cassette, laminated windscreen, tinted glass plus laminated windscreen, black or clear coat metallic. The HL is also available with a high efficiency Trimatic clutchless. The L was the only model you couldn't actually get that auto gearbox in. As we move up the range, we can now see the HLS, like we see the arrival of this rubbing strip, and I must admit it's one of my memories of my childhood. My dad always said he wished he got the HLS instead of the HL purely for that rubbing strip, because every time he parked it, it ended up with car park rash and little dents at supermarket car parks because it didn't have that little bit of a trim on there. So yeah, the HLS was a little bit higher up the spec range, so you had things like this little seat in the back where you could pass things through. It wasn't really a huge jump up because the HL still had things like a rev counter, etc. You had to go all the way up to the CD, the top of the range model, to get higher features like this washer for the headlamps and also these electric front windows as well. And you could even get extras on that, so you could get things like air conditioning as an option on the top of the range CD. I do apologise as my wire falls down from the camera, sorry about that. So yeah, in a nutshell, that was the range for the Triumph Acclaim. There's also some specifications, so we'll have a look at the specification page, of course. So it starts off talking about the L and the HL, although the L, the HL, the HLS, the CD, they were all using that same 1335 70 brake horsepower engine. And of course, they were all 5-speed gearboxes as well, unless you had that 3-speed auto. Quite basic specifications, but the nice thing about the Triumph Acclaim is it was well built and it was reliable, and that's not something we'd seen too much of from British Leyland, had we? So our specifications, so it says the L has got a speedometer with trip recorder, tachometer, fuel level and water temperature gauges, warning lamps for boot open, choke, oil pressure indicators, hazard lamps, main beam, ignition, handbrake, circuit failure, low fuel level, and the HL only added, a digital clock on the instrumentation. Interior features, so the L had this what they call a new marl fabric seat facing, reclining front seat, squabs, colour keyed padded fascia, glove box, 2-spoke steering wheel with horn push centre pad, coin cubby, anti-dazzle rear view mirror, twin sun visors with visor vanity mirror and driver ticket pocket, fitted carpets and carpeted rear shelf, fresh air heater, demister with 3-speed fan, central and individual face level fan vents, side window demist and recirculation settings. Interior bonnet release, inertia rear front seat belts, boot floor mat and moulded side stowaway trays. Underfloor storage area. The HL added a tweed fabric seat facing, front seat head restraints, gear lever console with headlamp levelling control, passenger grab handle, boot lid and fuel filler remote releases and a carpeted boot. And it goes on to tell about things like the body features. So the HL added things like a twin remote door mirrors and a coach line. There's just a stripe on the HL to notice the difference between that and the L and the HL. So when we look at the HLS, we are added further equipment on top of that. I'm not going to read it all, otherwise this video will become quite lengthy, but of course you can pause this video at any time if you do want to read any of these features. The seat CD was still had those pressed steel ventilated disc wheels, they weren't alloy. A little bit of an idea of what the instrumentation was on the CD model. The interior features on the CD model. And also the body features on that CD. One thing I do remember that was a fault on the CD, the Triumph Acclaim I should say, all models of the Triumph Acclaim, that little lip under the front bumper, I think that started rusting at maybe 2 or 3 years old. I think there was a recall for that, so they took it in and sorted it out for you, although it just always rusted. It was just, and obviously when you look at newer cars they tended to put the plastic all the way to the bottom, but they did rust, that sort of front valance on the front of them. Other slight complaints that my dad had, like I say, he always wanted the rubbers down the side that the HLS had, and the boot was a little bit on the small side. I remember going for vacations and holidays, and when we went away, that there wasn't much room for a small family from that very small boot. This brochure also shows us some of the exterior colours from BL at the time. Not all them colours were available on the Triumph Acclaim, but I can tell you Eclipse Blue was the colour that my dad had. And I always quite like the green as well, that opaline green metallic always looked good. So there we got the Triumph Acclaim, and what a great car it was, a car that we've kind of like forgotten. Of course, the last Triumph, some argue it's not a real Triumph, it was more Honda, but still the last car to have that Triumph name on, replaced by the Rover 200, another real badge exercise really, because that was just the newer version of a Honda Blade. So the Triumph Acclaim could have carried on really, but they went for the Rover brand of being a better one. I would imagine the name Triumph probably put a few people buying the Triumph Acclaim because they would have thought it would be an unreliable vehicle, but hey, it turned out to be really good, didn't it? There were specialist vehicles. There was an Avon Turbo version as well, extremely rare. I never even saw one when they were brand new, and I've certainly never seen on the road since, so I've only ever seen pictures of that model, so extremely rare models. Of course, the number of Triumph Acclaims, I would imagine 100 or so, I imagine, maybe like 1 or 2 Avon Turbos left. Let me know if you've got any memories of the Triumph Acclaim and your thoughts, and we'll see you very soon. But for now, we'll say please do like and subscribe, take care, and goodbye.